Now the Premier League resumed at the weekend, minus Chelsea, who were playing in a bit of a Mickey Mouse tournament, really, the World Club Championship. They won it anyway against the Brazilian team Palmeiras, and they missed their Premier League outing, but they'll be back to contend. But in a real sense, elsewhere in the Premier League, there are 7 clubs near the foot of the league. Only 4 of them will survive. Brentford, Leeds, Everton, Newcastle, Norwich, Watford and Burnley. Every game matters now, and you can see it in the games. They're high tempo, the intensity's there. And in the Premier League, if you leave aside the fact that City and Liverpool look really to have it between them, for the Champions League places then you have West Ham, Manchester United, Arsenal, Wolverhampton and Spurs, and of course Chelsea, all scrapping for those top 4 places. There's a lot to play for, and I'm joined now by John Giles and Liam Brady to talk about these games and the big ones at the weekend. To just start with you, John, because I know how passionate you still are about Leeds, and that's not a joke. You watch all the games, and you take a very keen interest in what Bielsa is doing at that club, and a lot of it has been splendid. But, John, they've been sucked into the relegation battle now. I mean, a couple of weeks ago we thought they might be getting away from them, but 3-0 loss at Everton, who got the sort of Frank Lampard bounce, I suppose you might say. That's a bad result for them.
Oh, it is, Eamon. Yeah, they're down about it. The other teams are making progress at the bottom, Eamon.
Yes.
I still think they'll be okay, but they were well beaten against Everton. Everton coming on, as we know, with Lampard now there, Eamon, and they scored 3 against Leeds. Leeds hit the bar twice in the first half, Eamon,
yes, which
might have made a difference to them. But overall, I think they were well outplayed by the Everton side. So they are in it. Yeah, there's no doubt with the likes of Newcastle winning a few matches, and 1 or 2 teams down there that look like Norwich at one stage, looks like they were out of it.
Yeah.
But I think they'll just manage it, just about, Eamon.
Yeah, and Seamus Coleman scored the first goal for Everton. Calvert-Lewin is back.
Yeah.
It's funny, Rafa Benitez had a hard time there for all kinds of reasons, partly because he was former Liverpool manager and never forgiven. But missing Calvert-Lewin for the last 4 or 5 months of his management, that was a serious blow to him. And when you're out of luck, you're out of luck, because Calvert-Lewin is back now and makes a big difference. He's an important player for Everton. And the whole thing, Liam, just put this to you. Frank Lampard, I don't think he did much wrong at Chelsea. I'd be interested to know what you think about that. I thought he did really well at Derby when he was there. I think he is a good man. I think he's a guy of real character and real knowledge. And maybe Chelsea flourished under Thomas Tuchel to win the Champions League after Frank had gone. But I'd still see a future for Frank. I wonder what you think, Liam.
Yeah, absolutely, Eamon. I think he did a really good job at Chelsea. If you remember, the first year he couldn't go into the transfer market. Chelsea had a transfer ban. And what he did do was bring along a lot of youngsters. Tammy Abrahams, I know, is no longer there, but he flourished under Lampard. He's playing at Roma now. And all those really good Chelsea players.
And Mason Mount would be a standout, Liam, wouldn't he? And he was with Frank at Derby on loan.
And Reece, the fullback, I think. A lot of really good young players were brought on, and Tuchel, got the rewards of that. I think when Tuchel came along, those players were now pretty much established in the Premier League, had that experience, and that was all down to Lampard. With Abramovich, if he's not getting the results that he thinks Chelsea should have, he changes manager. But I think Lampard, absolutely agree with you, Eamon, deserved another go. And you never know, Everton might be a good fit for him.
Yes.
There's some good young players there, and that was a good win. But Leeds are still a point ahead of Everton, so
Everton have a game in hand, but no, they're not out of it. They're right.
No, they're not out of it. Yeah, but they just got to watch themselves. But with Calvert-Lewin back in the team, he was a big miss for them for a long time. So I think Lampard will do well there.
Yeah, John, you've also respected and admired Frank Lampard both as a player and since he's gone into management.
Oh, definitely, Eamon. I mean, he did a good job at Derby, don't forget, before he went to Chelsea in his first job. And I think he was going in the right direction. Whereas Liam says with Abramovich, going in the right direction is not right for him. Yeah. He wants to be there. And, to be fair to him, I mean, it was a good choice. Tuchel went on to improve them even then. I mean, I went on to win the Champions League. So, we can't criticise Abramovich too much for that. But as far as Frank is concerned, I think it's a good fit. Yeah. Everton are a big club. I think they have a lot of good players. They should be in a better position they're in with the players that they have. And I think he'll get them there.
Right. Just while we're talking of being on a roll and that, Manchester City, John, they went to Norwich. They're at the top of the Premier League. They're 9 points in front of Liverpool. Liverpool have a game in hand and they have to play City. So theoretically, the City game is away from home at the Etihad. Theoretically, Liverpool could get within 3 points of them. But he has made them, John, a win machine. 4-0 at Norwich. Don't give any goals away. And Raheem Sterling scored a hat-trick. But the front three on the day was Foden, Mahrez and Sterling. So the absence of a striker, a real, genuine 20 goals a year plus striker, they're making up for it in the Premier League. Whether they'll make up for it in the Champions League, we're about to find out. What do you make of them?
Well, they've got a lot of good players, Eamon, as we know. He rested a few players at the weekend. He's got Foden coming in. Sterling, if Sterling gets back to his best, which he did after a poor start actually on Saturday, watched the match and finish up scoring 3 goals. And Mahrez is chipping in. Gundogan comes in.
You like him.
Yeah. Well, he's not a midfield player, and he's a good goal scorer, and he gets up in good positions to do it. So they've got players who are capable of scoring goals. But they did go for Harry Kane, as we know, and if Harry Kane was there, I think Harry Kane would be scoring over 20 goals already this season. To be quite honest, but they are doing it, and they're doing it in a certain way. But it's not ideal, Eamon. I don't think it's ideal. You do need an Aguero or a Harry Kane in there.
Yes.
But so far, I mean, the season was the close season was over before they could get anybody else in. So, I think he's doing a good job with the players that he has at his disposal without having the main striker.
Yeah, Liam, he was able to rest a few players at Norwich. He rested Stones and he rested Laporte, 2 important. He rested Kevin De Bruyne as well. So he really, this season, Manchester City are very hard to score against, and indeed they're very hard to play against because you haven't got much of the ball. The question, I suppose, is when you get to the big stuff in Europe in particular, and without a genuine striker, I think that's a considerable handicap. Do you?
Yeah. Well, I think against the good teams that they played against maybe over the last 18 months, because they haven't had Aguero. They didn't have Aguero last year. He was out injured a lot. Right. Or he wasn't being picked. Against the better teams, it does look like that's their weakness. They haven't got hardly any weaknesses in the team, but when it comes to the crunch, against the better teams, and particularly what teams that are left in the Champions League, it could be a handicap, a considerable handicap. However, I do think that they're not going to slip up in the league. I think Liverpool have it all to do. It'll be important, that match when they play against one another, that Liverpool win that game if they're going to get back in it. But Man City really are a machine, Eamon. And,
yes.
Despite the fact that they haven't got, as John said, the Harry Kane or Sergio Aguero, they still score a lot of goals. And as you say, they don't concede many. So they're a fine team. They must have a great chance of the Champions League this year.
Yeah, they've scored 61 goals, John, and they've conceded just 14, which really is a new sort of look for a Pep Guardiola team, isn't it? They were very cavalier at Barcelona with Messi and, of course, the great players he had, Iniesta and Xavi and all of that. And for his first spell at City, I think until this season, really, it's been defence that has really let them down in the big games, as Liam was saying. When you can get away with it maybe at Norwich or, Watford or wherever, but when you go and play the big European teams...
Well, that's the European teams, Eamon. But he did. I mean, he won the league 4 times without doing what he did. I mean, he was scoring goals. They had good players, and as you're right, I mean, there could have been more emphasis on defence, which there is now. But I mean, in the Champions League, to be honest, now I'd rather win as a footballer. I'd rather win the league every year, Eamon, than the Champions League. That's my take on it, because it has to be consistent week in and week out for 38 matches or whatever they play. But anyway, I mean, you do need the striker. He did try to get Harry Kane, and you can imagine what it'd be like if Harry Kane had he got him. Eamon, it looked like he was going to get him at one stage, and then it was too late to get anybody else. So, I mean, they're doing what they have to do and doing the best they can. And as you say, they're conceding less goals.
Yes,
obviously. I mean,
huge.
So if you concede less goals, you don't have to score so many. But they're scoring a fair share for what they have at the moment. But it's not ideal. That's for sure.
Now, Liam, Harry Kane's situation, another bad result for Spurs. They've lost 2 home games, 2 games at home this week, and the Wolves beat them yesterday. I think Wolves are a decent enough team, but it's a bad result for Antonio Conte. Just to get you into Harry Kane's mind, Liam, or try to for a moment, I think we all agree he's a really top player. To have to sort of be in that mess, particularly as a striker that Spurs are in at the moment, must be really hard for him, and particularly when he thinks about winning things and the big days and nights. I'd say it must be extremely hard. You were in that position yourself before you went to Juventus. It can be hard for a great player at a club that looks like it's a top club but aren't doing it.
Well, I got my move, Eamon. I wanted to leave, and I went. I wanted to try playing football outside of England. That's what I wanted to do. I think Harry Kane was probably I thought his destiny was to go to Man City and play under Guardiola and earn £400,000 a week and win things. And I think he thought he had a gentleman's agreement with Daniel Levy, but it hasn't worked. That didn't work out. And I think Kane has been disappointed ever since that, and he's playing like he's disappointed. He's playing like he didn't get what he wanted to get. Now, when Conte came to the club, I think he picked up a bit, as a lot of the players did. But I still think it's stuck in his mind that the club weren't fair to him, or didn't agree to what he thought was an agreement he had, and I think that thing has festered and particularly when you're not getting results. Like that's the third league game in a row that they've lost. Yep. And they really are shooting themselves in the foot as regards getting that fourth position, for the Champions League. So it's a worry that, we talked about this last week when they lost against Southampton. Is Conte actually going to be happy there? Is he going to want to stay there? Is he going to want to build the team up? It's a real worry, and I think the fans are looking more at Levy than Conte as regards the reason why the club is not flourishing.
Yeah, they got a bounce of 9 games unbeaten when Conte came, but I could give you, both of you, John and Liam. John, you saw Luis Diaz, the Colombian, make his debut for Liverpool last week, and I was hugely impressed, and I think you were as well. But Spurs were in for him. And they could have, according to reports, they could have had him, but they were haggling over the last 10 quid. And Liverpool swooped in and got him. Now, when Conte sees that, you were impressed, weren't you, by Diaz? I mean, he looks like a proper player.
Well, I want to see more of him, Eamon. I want to see more of him. I thought he was good on what he's here, but you'd have to see more of him. It was the first match. But he looks the right. But the point you're making is that the Spurs didn't get him. Liverpool got him. And this is the problem that Conte is going to have. Is the chairman going to get the players in that's required, Eamon?
Yes.
And he's a difficult guy, as we know. He hasn't done it with any other manager, getting the players in.
Yeah.
And he's lost a couple of players already that were in the transfer market, including Diaz, as you mentioned there. I think Conte won't put up with that, Eamon.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if this keeps going the way it's going. They're not going to get the players in. Well, he can't now anyway.
Yeah.
I think he could walk.
Yeah.
He's not going to be. This guy is a top manager, as we know.
Yeah.
He's not going to be desperate for a few bob, Eamon.
No.
And he's in the position now. If he's dealing with Levy and he's not getting what he wants, and no manager, I don't think, has got what they want with Levy over the last 10 years. So this could happen easily. And I think if he feels that, he'll go. He won't stay there.
Yeah, Liam, just, that North London scene, the fans very well, and the vibe there. It looks like Diaz went to Liverpool. There was a buyout clause. Both clubs were willing to give Levy the benefit of the doubt. Were prepared to pay what his club wanted, but it maybe came down in the end to his salary. In those kind of situations, you wouldn't want Levy to be by your side, would you, if you were Conte? And that would, when he sees Diaz do well in the Premier League, Liam, as he may well do, that'll be like a pebble in his shoe as well.
Yeah, well, we've quite often we've talked about Daniel Levy and the way he runs the club. The fans are desperate for any sort of trophy at Spurs. It's been a long, long time since they've had any silverware. And they've had a number of managers, haven't they, trying to do that. They had a very good manager in Pochettino.
Took them to the Champions League final.
Yeah, but Levy fell out with him or wouldn't back him in the transfer market, and things turned sour there. And I, like John, think if things don't happen for him in the transfer market at the end of this season, Conte, he might just say, look, if you don't give me the backing, there's no point in having me here. I need the players on the pitch. And he looked disconsolate there yesterday at White Hart Lane. Yeah. Normally he's trying to drive the team on, and he's very enthusiastic and things like that. But he had his head down, shaking it. He knows he's got a poor side. When you go through them individually, they're a poor team until you get to the front. Song, Harry Kane are very good on the day.
Yes,
but we've talked about Kane's problems this season, and that obviously hasn't helped the situation. Fans are upset. And that's why, if a player has a choice like Diaz had, Eamon, where you want to go, it's Liverpool all day long, isn't it? Because you got a great manager there, you got great fans. They're in you're in the Champions League. You're pushing to win the title. Like, it's a no-brainer, really, and that's what few clubs are going to have to put up with. If you've got teams that are already in the Champions League or assured of Champions League football, it makes a hell of a lot of difference to a player that has a choice to make.
Yeah, I just want to ask you about Arsenal before I go back to John. Liam, they didn't play at the weekend, and they're bang there despite one or two results going against them, but they're 2 games in hand of Manchester United, and they're a point behind. They've a game in hand of Wolves, and they're 2 points ahead. They've actually 3 games in hand of West Ham, and they're only 2 points behind. So on paper, they have a real chance, as indeed Spurs do, because they're just 3 points behind Arsenal. Arsenal have a real chance of Champions League. That would be a salvation job for Arteta, wouldn't it? Given the kind of, he's been introducing young players, he's bought, maybe not great in the transfer market. What do you think?
Well, I think it'd be a tremendous result if they were get into the Champions League. But Arsenal are there. If you look at the amount of points they have, they're there because Manchester United have been terribly disappointing this year. Yep. Spurs have been disappointing. Leicester were usually in the mix. They've had a poor time of it as well. So I'm not saying they're there by default, but they're not really a team that I believe in yet, Eamon. Yes. What they've done, what Arteta's done well, he's done well with the young players. But the established players are, in my opinion, been there too long and not good enough.
Yes.
I think Partey's beginning to play a bit better now. The first few months of the season, he looked like a fish out of water, but he's settling down. So he might be a player that's someone to look forward to going forward. But I think that race for the top 4 is so open.
Wide
that
open,
if a team,
if
a team puts maybe a four-match run together where they win all 4 games, they'll just shoot away from everybody else because everybody's so inconsistent. But I wouldn't be putting money on Arsenal that they're the team to do that.
No, it's very hard to predict. John, Manchester United, Liam mentioned it there. We saw them again on Saturday. I thought they were terrible. I mean, they got a goal start. They got a goal start against Middlesbrough. Couldn't close the deal there. And were knocked out of the cup. And they got a goal start at Burnley last week. Couldn't close the deal. And again,
Southampton as well, Eamon.
Southampton, they got a goal start, And I was talking to John while we were watching this. John, the first thing to say is, and Paul Scholes made the point very forcefully on television, remarks that were picked up by newspapers afterwards. They weren't having a go. I mean, Paul Scholes said it, didn't he, John?
Oh, he did very, very much so. And you know, he's very good, Scott. He doesn't hold back, and what he's saying is true, and he believes it, obviously. But again, I know you're fed up with me saying it. You have to get a manager.
I'm not.
You have to get a manager in. You know, they're playing like a team. This is an interim manager, Eamon.
Yeah.
And I know I keep going on about it. Interim managers. It doesn't work. You have to believe the manager's going to be there forever. That's how you build morale up. And it could be a contractual situation that you have to work with him, but you have to be pleasing him. You have to, because you're there next season. Now, this fella looks like he's not going to be there next season. So players, whether they do it consciously or not, Eamon, say, well, what do I have to please him for? He's not going to be here. And I see the players now are talking again. And players, like a lot of senior players in that club, Eamon, they all see it from a different angle.
Yeah.
You know, the centre-half will say, well, I'm not getting cover. Some people should be getting too many players forward. Ronaldo can say, I'm not getting any support here. That's the way it goes all the time. I mean, now I heard see in the paper that the players now want Pochettino.
Yeah, they do.
Like the players want Pot. The manager's there playing now that he should be playing for, and it doesn't happen. And that's what's happening with them. You know, they're not a team. They're not a team.
They got the 1-0 lead. I thought Southampton played really well. You know, given the resources, I mean, they had to sell Danny Ings, for example, to Villa for 23 million. I think his contract, that was his release clause. But they haven't really, but I thought they were brilliant. But in midfield...
But Eamon, they have a manager.
Yeah, I know that. You've made that point. Now, what I'm trying to move you on to is what the coach did. And I want to ask Liam about this. The midfield was McTominay, Pogba and Fernandes. Now, the way it worked out was McTominay was on his own because Fernandes and Pogba were only interested in getting forward. And to be fair to Pogba, in the two games I've seen in Burnley and on Saturday, he's played really well in an attacking sense, but not getting back. McTominay was totally on his own and he had 2 or 3 Southampton players buzzing around him. So the setup is wrong. Leaving aside, this is the judgment you'd have to make on the coach, that he hasn't set this team up properly at all.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's not there. He's not doing the job. They don't have him, and they haven't had him manager for 4 flipping years now. Yeah. Manchester United. So Pogba is what he is. Fernandes is what he is. Eamon. Yeah. I mean, Fernandes has gone around growling and moaning and doing whatever he shouldn't be doing. Pogba, you never know what you're going to get from him. And McTominay is a good, honest lad, but there's no balance to it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Southampton team, if you look at the man for man, Eamon, they wouldn't be in the same class ability-wise as some of the Manchester United players, but they're a team.
Yeah.
They're playing together. He has them balanced. He has them doing certain things, and they were lucky enough to win the match, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were.
So it's a mess at Old Trafford, despite the amount of good players they have. I mean, good players have to be a team. You have to make a team from them. And that hasn't happened for 4 years, 3 years when Solskjaer's there, and it's not happening under this guy.
Liam, what Paul Scholes said was that they weren't put the shift in, they're not having a go, and I think anyone who plays, who'd any kind of career, really when you're in a setup like that, everyone's passing the buck, you're going out, you don't really know what the game plan is. It's a nightmare. But if you're wearing a red shirt for Manchester United, it's a double nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so much is expected of that club. You know, they've been a brilliant success story under Alex Ferguson, but it's all gone wrong since Ferguson retired.
Yeah,
they haven't got things right with the manager. Maybe Moyes never got the chance that he deserved. He was gone very, very quickly. The choice of the other managers, I think, was wrong. You know, who's running the club? Is it Woodward and not the manager?
Woodward's toast now, Liam.
Well, he says he is, but he's still there, and they haven't replaced him yet, have they?
They have.
Have they? Well, is he going to do the transfers? Who's going to pick the players? Is it going to be Ranić? Is it going to be the next manager? It's all a bit of a mess, and that's why you get the performances you get. If there's no leadership on the sideline, a leadership of the club, and the club don't have the ethos that the fans expect and once was there, you're going to get these performances. Now, it can manifest itself, as Scholes says, they're not having a goal, but you need to have somebody who they respect on the sideline and is making the right calls and making the right decisions and has the authority. And that, as John says, hasn't been there since Fergie left the club, to be quite honest. Yeah. And that's why it's a mess.
Yeah, John and Liam, I both like to ask both of you, Cristiano Ronaldo, 37 birthday last week, and Cavani's the other sort of star front player they have. These guys won't be around for much longer, and Ronaldo looks extremely unhappy. That club could easily fall apart, John, couldn't it? I mean,
well, it's falling apart now,
Well, it is falling apart, yeah, but it falls apart in a big way. I mean,
well, it depends. They're not going to, with getting an interim manager in, it's not going to help them in any way.
No.
So what they have to do is to get a good manager in. Now, where they're going to get that from, or if they want it, looking back on Solskjaer, I don't think they were looking for a strong manager. They could have had Conte, for example, as well. And I read in the paper last week, the reason they didn't go for Conte is because the players he would have had at his disposal didn't suit the way he wanted to play.
Yep.
Right? This is total nonsense.
Yeah.
And they're getting somebody in at the moment, interim manager. Don't know who they're going to get in. Whoever's in charge of the situation there don't want a top manager in, because the manager will definitely get what he needs, and that's we know Conte's a strong manager like that. They could have had him, and they didn't want him. They're messing about, and they're getting worse and worse and worse in what they're trying to do. We don't know who they are, but they're definitely the money men. If you look at the situation in Pogba, for example, we don't know what he's going to do. He's a free agent at the end of the season, and they were offering him more money to stay.
500 grand a week.
Right. Yeah, and he wasn't doing anything.
No, it's 300 grand more than Mo Salah's getting, and they're offering to him. I just want to talk to both of you now. Liam, I'll start with you. We're talking about Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United, two of the great traditional English clubs, and how important it is that clubs are led by the right kind of person. By that I mean someone who is really informed about football, cares about the club and its history, and can sort out a football club and run it the way it should be run. There's two examples now we've talked about this morning, Liam, of clubs being wrecked. And I would put it to you that in a sense, I don't like to put you in an invidious position, Arsenal's story is the same. If it's wrong at the very top, then it's only a matter of time before it goes wrong in the league table and on the pitch.
Well, you're not putting me in any position at all, any sort of position at all, Eamon. I've got my opinions. You've heard them before. I don't think things are right at Arsenal. The people buying the players, so forth. It's been like John says. If there's no leadership or there's no talent in selecting the players, you're going to get poor teams, and you're going to get teams that will fail. And that's what Manchester United, Spurs, and maybe Arsenal have. Right. Arsenal have made some improvements, but they're hit and miss in the transfer market. Tottenham have been poor in the transfer market. Manchester United has been a disaster in the transfer market.
Yeah.
Where is it right? It's right where Guardiola is. It's right where Klopp is.
Yes.
It's right. The executives they're working with are obviously know their job and know how to get a deal across the line, don't they?
Yes, they do.
But you look at the other clubs, they don't seem to be able to do it. Well, Manchester United just throw money at it, and invariably they get players to go there. But they're not picking the right players.
No.
And the Pogba situation is, I think they'd be mad to keep him. I don't think Leopards change their spots. If they get him to re-sign, I think they're going to have the same problem again next year, no matter who the manager is.
Yeah, and I must say, John, we were talking about this on Saturday when we were watching the match. He looks fresh as a daisy. He's the fittest and the most active player on the pitch. He's only played about 6 games this season. And he scored a goal at Burnley, which is the first goal he scored for over a year. They're offering him 500 grand a week to stay. He looks happy as Larry, and he's buzzing.
Of course he is. He's buzzing for about 20 minutes of the match, Eamon, but it's just the situation they're in.
I know,
You know, to have to like if they got a top manager in, I don't think he'd be there now. But they're trying to please Pogba by giving him another 100 grand, so he's on a free transfer. You know, they're the money guys, Eamon, that are coming into it. You know, and Lee making a point about the manager. If the manager comes in, you have to give the manager what he wants to do. Yeah. That's his expertise.
Yeah.
You know, if he wants it, every manager, in my opinion, has a vision of what they want on the pitch. And to fulfill that vision, if that's the right word, is to get the players in that you want. But if you have somebody saying to you, right, there's Joe Bloggs, says, I don't want him. He's not part of what I need to build up, and this is not my vision. Well, that's hard luck. That's what you're getting. And that's what leads it to where it is. So there's no point in having a manager. And they haven't had a manager for 4 years.
Right. Liam, just in that sense, I wonder you'd have a bit more sense of Antonio Conte perhaps than we do. We all have a sense, I think, of his extreme professionalism. He won 5 Serie A titles as well. If you offered him Pogba, or if he went there, it's interesting to speculate that the issue for the money men, as John calls them, is this. They're offering 500 grand a week to stay. If he walks, he might get 50 or 60 million, him and his agent, from some club that would have tens of millions anyway. Conte wouldn't have kept Pogba, would he?
No.
I know we're speculating now.
No, I don't think so. Well, he would have put it up to him. You know, you either play. I think, who's the manager of France? His name escapes me at the moment.
Deschamps.
Yeah, Deschamps, you know, great ex-player.
Yeah, captain of the World Cup winning team.
Yeah, he got the best out of Pogba. He got Pogba playing for the team. So there are managers out there who maybe could do something with him. But I don't know. To have him week in, week out, I just think he's not in love with the game. The game is a bit of a toy to him, and he gets what he wants from being a footballer. But I don't think he really, really loves the game. So
yes,
he you know, we're going back to whether Conte could do something with him. He wouldn't put up with him, Eamon, if he had him for a few months and Pogba wasn't doing it. He'd just say to the club, look, we've got to get rid of him. And it doesn't work keeping players. Look what Arsenal did with Ozil. They gave him another contract. It was the worst thing they could ever do. And they had to pay him to leave.
And Aubameyang.
Aubameyang's another one. Had to pay him to go, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's why I say leopards don't change their spots. And when you get a bad apple in the barrel, it makes things at a club very, very difficult.
Okay, Liam, thank you very much. And John, thank you both very much. Liam Brady and John Giles, 2 great players and 2 of the 2 best analysts really working at the moment.